I've said, in fact, I think it's on my Twitter handle, that I want to afflict the comfortable and comfort the afflicted. You know, I do, for me, fiction does have a kind of moral purpose, if you like, but even that is secondary to my passion for telling and indeed reading stories. I think storytelling is still very much looked down on, certainly by the literary elite that I am both part of and apart from. And it's one of the reasons I love children's books, because story is absolutely king there, whereas in the adult literary world, I think you're rather marked down for bothering to tell a story and having a plot, rather than just, you know, writing beautifully. Which I contend is much easier than storytelling. So I think it does start with the germ of an idea, like hearing these women say one after another that it would be so much easier to be a widow. And then I start thinking about, you know, what sort of story I could tell about that. And from that, the characters start to grow. You know, you find that it develops quite naturally, that thing. But you know, I do live with my characters for a long time. You know, I've got various other stories kind of stacked up in my mind, and people who I want to bring back from other stories. But, you know, in case that all sounds very gloomy and dark, if you haven't read anything by me before, they are also comedies, and the good do end happily and the bad do get punished. One of the things I'm always very fierce about is the need for women to keep working. I've seen, you know, in my lifetime, and I was perhaps a second generation feminist, where it was still quite difficult for women to go to university, but not as difficult, obviously, as it was for our grandmothers. I've seen huge numbers of women giving up their jobs to raise their families, which is, you know, a perfectly good and honorable thing to do. But I've also seen how dreadful it is to be economically dependent on a man. And some of the women that I was talking to, who gave me the idea for the golden rule, in fact, were in that situation of suddenly finding they had really almost no money. And it's so terrible to see that utter vulnerability. So in a sense, you know, what this novel is really about is the need for women to have autonomy, to have some degree of power over their own lives. And in that, you know, I do follow the, I hope, the sort of great heroines of Victorian literature, because even if their stories tended to end in marriage, you know, characters like Dorothea Brooke and Jane Eyre, they're so wonderful because they're so strong, and they're not just going to be eaten up by marriage and motherhood. They're going to, you know, they're inspirational because they are still themselves, and they're going to do things, you feel, that are exceptional. There's a young actress, because Hannah is under 30, just under 30. And you kind of deduce that she's blonde, she's small. There's an actress I think is absolutely wonderful called Florence Pugh, who played, I think it was Amy in Little Women. And she was in that John le Carré book about the girl who joins the terrorist. What's it called? Anyway, she's marvelous, and she's got a wonderful face because she's very small and very pretty, but she can look mutinously sulky. And that to me would be wonderful. She's a fantastic actress. And Ginny, the very seductive, tall, dark, she'd be tougher because she should be about 35. Not sure. You know, there's so many wonderful actresses in Britain, particularly. Well, I do love Patricia Highsmith, and you know, it's very interesting how much interest in her has grown and grown. Um, she's you know, much more than I think people realized at the time. Of course, you know, great film directors like Alfred Hitchcock made her rich and famous, but she has this grasp of the darkness in the human psyche and how really evil people can be. And also she does this extraordinary thing of getting you on their side. I am not tempted by that. I mean, I think the darkness was actually Highsmith's own. There have been a couple of very interesting biographies of her that have come out recently, one of which by a writer called Andrew Wilson I particularly recommend. I can, because I've actually signed with my publisher for 2 more novels. The next novel is about 3 old ladies in their 80s who are living in Italy in the same place, and they're great friends with all the kind of scratchiness and difficulties that long friendships sometimes throw up. And the grandson of one of them is getting married, and it's about how they interfere in the wedding and various other things like that. It's called The Three Graces, and the 3 old ladies who you encounter, you readers will have met as minor characters before. So one is an English aristocrat, one is an American, and one is a German musician. So I'm having great fun kind of deepening their characters and imagining this scenario. And I'm very, very interested now in the lives of 80-year-olds. I think older people are absolutely fascinating.